Kale didn't know what else to do but cry for a moment. A rush of emotions flooding through his body as memories started to come back to him. Whatever the worms had done to suppress his past was breaking. Aspects of this last year suddenly made more sense to him. The memories he did have before didn't explain why he always felt so sad when he was alone in his apartment. Plus, he had an innate sense of fear, criminal mindsets, and how to intimidate people larger or more numerous than him. What he'd seen before just looked like a normal, if boring, life. Shade clearly didn't know what to do about the crying human adult he was holding. Finally, Kale got a better grip on himself, stopped, and tried to get up. Shade helped him onto his feet, his legs shaky as he stumbled forward, and quickly sat back down in his chair. When the large dragon somewhat awkwardly got up off the ground, Kale nodded at the various pitchers on the table. Alcohol? Strong. Shade reached out, picking up a pitcher of amber-colored liquid. Kale quickly took his cup and gulped down what was left of the fruit juice before pouring in a large helping of the alcohol. He then took a big gulp of that. He grimaced a bit and felt his throat burn, unable to taste much with how quickly he drank it down. In general, he hadn't drunk alcohol this past year. It brought out a bad mood in him. He'd feel sad and depressed, as if there was some dark cloud just overhead he couldn't get rid of, no matter how much synth he took. But now, it wasn't sadness, it was anger, a cold, burning anger. He slammed his cup down and looked at Shade. Who did this to me? Kale demanded, his voice low and dangerous. Shade sat down, his large reptilian head tilted. The hierarchy. You were a subject, just like all the others they found. They tested the revenant process on you. You were an addict, dying in an alley. They saved you, in their own way. Saved me? Kale scoffed, pouring another drink. They turned me into this, a weapon. You were a weapon, Kale, Shade stated simply, but you are also more than that. You saved me. You understand things no one else does. You can heal. You can connect. Kale looked at his hands, then at the golden sphere that was now hovering calmly beside his head. They gave me this too, this essence. Is this what made me different? It is my essence, Shade corrected, or a small part of it. It resonated with you. It bonded. It awakened something else within you. Kale closed his eyes, taking another gulp of alcohol. The memories were still fragmented, but the pieces were starting to fit. He remembered bits of being experimented on, the pain, the confusion, and then, the golden light, the calming presence. So they used me, Kale said, his voice flat. They turned me into their puppet, and now they're sending me out to fight their wars. The galaxy is a dangerous place, Kale, Shade replied, his tone firm. There are threats beyond your comprehension. The hierarchy maintains order, however flawed it may be. Kale laughed bitterly. Flawed. They kidnapped me, erased my memories and turned me into a super soldier. That's more than flawed, Shade, that's tyranny. He stood up, swaying slightly, the alcohol hitting him hard. I need to know everything they did to me, and everything they're hiding. Shade watched him, a silent observer. I will help you, but you must understand, this path is dangerous. The hierarchy guards its secrets fiercely. Kale slammed his cup down again. Then they'll learn what happens when you mess with a human who remembers. He spent the next few days in a blur of anger and determination. He avoided Xylos, ignoring hierarchy calls, immersing himself in the vast data networks of the city, trying to uncover any information about his past. Shade, despite his usual grim nature, remained by his side, a silent presence, a constant reminder of Kale's newfound power and their shared burden. Kale found nothing substantial. The hierarchy had erased his records thoroughly. It was as if he had never existed before the lab. Frustration gnawed at him. He felt like a ghost, a phantom of a life he couldn't fully remember. One evening, as Kale was brooding in his apartment, Shade spoke. There is one who might know. A prisoner, Xylon. Kale looked at Shade, his eyes narrowed. Xylon? The one you captured? The information broker? Shade nodded. He knows things, secrets. He thrives on them. but he will demand a price. I'll pay it, Kale said, his voice cold. Whatever it takes. They made their way to the hierarchy's maximum security detention center. The facility was a maze of reinforced walls and energy barriers. Xylon, a cunning and manipulative alien, was kept in a solitary confinement cell, his mind a dangerous web of information. The guards were hesitant to grant them access, but Shade's reputation, combined with a stern glare, eventually swayed them. They entered Xylon's cell. Xylon sat cross-legged on the floor, his multiple eyes observing them with an unnerving intensity. He was a creature of shadows and whispers. The Revenant, Xylon's voice was smooth, insidious, and the human anomaly. To what do I owe this unexpected visit? My past, Kale stated, getting straight to the point. Everything. The lab, the experiments, the process, the hierarchy's involvement, everything. Xylon chuckled, a dry, grating sound. Ah, the truth, a rare commodity. And what is your price? Information, Shade interjected, on the architect. The black blood, the shadow dust. Xylon's eyes glinted. An interesting exchange. Very well. The architect is a powerful psychic, an outcast from a hierarchy Black Ops program. He controls minds, manipulates others. He used to be known as Project Chimera. He was obsessed with control, with purifying the galaxy of what he called imperfections. He created the shadow dust to achieve this. He was trying to create a psychic network, an ultimate control grid. Kale felt a chill. The architect's goal was far more insidious than he had initially thought. And my past? Kale pressed. Xylon leaned forward, his voice dropping to a whisper. You were an experiment, Kale. A desperate attempt by a rogue faction within the hierarchy to replicate Shade's abilities. They found you, a dying addict, and saw potential. They infused you with a fraction of Shade's essence, hoping to create a controllable revenant. Kale listened, his jaw clenched. Every word confirmed his darkest suspicions. But something unexpected happened, Xylon continued. Your human mind, combined with Shade's essence and an ancient artifact they used in the process, created something new. A bridge. A unique connection to a primal, forgotten power. A power that can heal, yes, but also amplify. It's what allowed you to communicate with the Star Devourer, to cleanse the Omni-Mind. You are their greatest failure, and their greatest unintended success. Who was this rogue faction? Kale demanded. Xylon smiled, a chilling, knowing smile. That, Kale, is a secret for another time. For now you have enough to process. The Architects of Chaos. They are the ones truly responsible for the galactic instability. They are beings from a higher dimension, seeking to prune away what they deem flawed in this reality. They are not physical, they are concepts. And they are waking up. Shade growled. You speak of the beings Kale just faced. Indeed, Xylon confirmed, but what he faced was merely an echo, a projection. The true architects are still stirring. And they will come for him. For his unique connection to the essence, and to that primal power. Kale felt a cold dread settle over him. He was a target. Not just of the hierarchy, but of something far more ancient and powerful. My turn now, Xylon said, his eyes fixed on Shade. Release me. I have provided valuable information. And I can provide more. I know much about the Architects of Chaos, and I can help you fight them. Shade hesitated, looking at Kale. Kale thought it over. Xylon was dangerous, manipulative. But he also held knowledge they desperately needed. Release him, Kale finally said, but he's under strict hierarchy supervision. And if he tries anything, Shade will make sure he never breathes again. Xylon smiled, a genuine, if still cunning smile, a fair bargain. Xylos, who had been monitoring the conversation from the comms, sounded shocked. Subject Shade, Kale, releasing Xylon is a major breach of protocol. It's a calculated risk, Xylos, Shade replied, his voice firm. The galaxy is facing a greater threat than one cunning prisoner. Xylon was released under strict conditions, his movements tracked, his communications monitored. He became an uneasy ally, a shadowy source of information, always hinting at deeper conspiracies. Kale, armed with the truth about his past and the new knowledge about the architects of chaos, felt a shift within him. The anger was still there, but now it was directed, focused. He was no longer just a victim, he was a key player in a cosmic drama. His abilities, his unique connection, were not a curse, but a vital tool. He knew his journey was far from over. The past still haunted him. The hierarchy's betrayal still burned. But he also knew he had a purpose, a role to play in protecting the galaxy from the primordial forces that sought to unravel it. He had Shade, his silent, powerful guardian. And he had the truth. The next few months were a whirlwind of activity. Kale, with Shade's protection and Xylon's cryptic hints, began to delve deeper into the nature of the ancient architects of chaos. He discovered that they operated through various cults and shadowy organizations across the galaxy, subtly influencing events, stirring up conflict, and preparing the way for their ultimate arrival. The hierarchy, initially skeptical, began to trust Kale's instincts more and more, as his predictions proved accurate and his abilities saved them from numerous crises. Kale found himself in a strange position, fighting for the very organization that had exploited him, but doing so to protect the innocent beings within it. One particular cult, known as the Void Harvesters, became their primary target. They were a ruthless group, fanatically devoted to the architects of chaos, believing that universal dissolution was the path to ultimate enlightenment. They were actively seeking ancient relics, powerful artifacts that could further destabilize reality and hasten the architect's return. The Void Harvesters are planning a major ritual, Xylos reported, his voice grave. They've acquired a dimensional shard, a dangerous artifact, and they intend to use it on the planet Xylos Prime. Kale recognized the name. Xylos Prime was a densely populated, vibrant world, a hub of culture and commerce. If the Harvesters succeeded there, the ripple effect would be catastrophic. "We need to stop them," Kale said, his jaw set, "before they open another tier." Shade nodded, his magnum already in hand. "This time, we go in hard." No subtlety. They arrived at Xylos Prime to find it already under siege. The Void Harvesters, their faces masked and their robes adorned with unsettling symbols, were unleashing corrupted energy onto the streets, causing widespread panic and destruction. Their enhanced capabilities, fueled by devotion to the architects, made them formidable. "They're faster, stronger than anything we've faced from a cult before," Shade observed, as he engaged a group of harvesters, his blasts tearing through their ranks. Kale, using his enhanced senses, saw the energy flowing through them, the dark influence of the architects. He used his power not just to heal but to disrupt. He sent out waves of pure energy, neutralizing their corrupted abilities, making them vulnerable to Shade's attacks. They fought their way through the city, rescuing civilians, pushing back the cultists. Kale, remembering his mother's words, focused on protecting the innocent, shielding them from harm, his every move fueled by a fierce determination to make things right. They eventually traced the main ritual to the planet's central energy nexus, a colossal tower that channeled raw energy for the entire planet. The Void Harvesters had corrupted it, and a massive dimensional shard pulsed at its apex, distorting reality around it. At the heart of the ritual was the cult leader, a fanatic named Seraphis. He was a being of immense psychic power, his body shimmering with the architect's influence, his eyes burning with mad zeal. "You are too late, mortals," Seraphis boomed, his voice echoing through the tower. "The architects will awaken, and this universe will be reborn in true order." He unleashed a barrage of psychic energy, twisting the very air around them, manifesting illusions and sending blasts of raw force. Shade, despite his resilience, was thrown back, his armor crackling. Kale stepped forward, his eyes glowing with ancient power. He understood Seraphis. He was merely a puppet, a conduit for the architect's will. "You are misguided," Kale projected, his voice calm but powerful, cutting through Seraphis's psychic assault. "Your order is destruction. Your rebirth is annihilation." He channeled his full power, not to attack but to connect. He sent a wave of understanding, of compassion, into Seraphis's mind, showing him the true beauty of life, the vibrant chaos, the unpredictable joy. He showed him the suffering the architects truly caused. Seraphis screamed, a sound of profound inner turmoil. The architect's influence within him clashed with Kale's pure, balancing energy. His body spasmed, and the dimensional shard pulsed violently, its energy becoming unstable. "The shard is destabilizing," Xylos's voice warned, laced with urgency. "It could implode, taking the entire planet with it." Shade, recovering, saw the danger. "Kale, pull back." But Kale wouldn't. He saw a chance, not just to stop the ritual, but to cleanse the shard itself, to turn its destructive power into a force for healing. He poured all his energy into it, connecting with the primal essence of the universe that the architect sought to suppress. The dimensional shard erupted in a blinding flash of light, but instead of destruction, a wave of purifying energy washed over Xylos Prime. The corrupted energy vanished, the destruction was undone, and the Void Harvesters collapsed, their fanaticism replaced by confusion and fear. Seraphis, his body no longer shimmering, fell to his knees, his eyes wide with a newfound horror. The architect's influence was gone. What have I done?" he whispered, his voice broken. Kale, exhausted but standing firm, looked at the cleansed dimensional shard, which now pulsed with a soft, benevolent light. He had not only saved Xylos Prime, but had turned a weapon of destruction into a beacon of hope. The hierarchy arrived, stunned by the scale of the transformation. They had witnessed Kale's unique power firsthand, a power that could not only defeat, but transform and redeem. The incident on Xylos Prime became a turning point. The hierarchy began to re-evaluate its entire approach to galactic order, moving from rigid control to a more nuanced understanding of underlying cosmic forces. Kale became their leading expert, a spiritual guide as much as a tactical asset. Continuation of script. Part 3. CHUNK2. The news of the Architects of Chaos's growing influence and the hierarchy's internal struggles spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Many systems, already disillusioned with the hierarchy's rigid rule, began to waver in their allegiance. Kale knew that for true peace to exist, the hierarchy itself needed to change, to become more open, more transparent. He approached Xylos, who was constantly analyzing data streams, his ocular sensors spinning. "Xylos, the hierarchy's central AI, does it track everything? Every crime? Every statistic?" "Yes, certainly," Xylos responded, his voice programmed for efficiency. "It collects and analyzes vast amounts of data to predict trends, optimize resource allocation, and ensure societal stability." "Does it track crime patterns?" Kale pressed. "Demographics? Why hasn't this been a big deal?" "In my old life, police departments always stressed over crime statistics." Xylos paused, his optical sensors blinking. "Crime statistics are regulated, filtered. For public consumption, they are presented in a manner that maintains order and prevents panic." Kale's eyes narrowed. "Filtered? So the hierarchy manipulates information?" Xylos remained silent for a moment, then spoke. "The hierarchy believes that absolute truth can be destabilizing. They prioritize galactic stability above all else." Kale scoffed. "Stability built on lies? That's not stability, Xylos. That's a ticking time bomb." He glanced around the vast data hub. There were other hierarchs present, engaged in their duties, oblivious to the deeper secrets Xylos had just revealed. This confirmed Kale's suspicions. The hierarchy, despite its noble intentions, was flawed at its core, operating on a system of hidden truths. "I need access," Kale stated, his voice firm. "Full access to the unfiltered crime data. I need to understand the true patterns, the hidden influences." Xylos hesitated. "That is highly restricted data. Only a select few have such clearance." "Make it happen, Xylos," Kale insisted. "If we are to truly fight the Architects of Chaos, we need to understand the chaos they are building within this galaxy. And we cannot do that with partial information." Xylos, after a moment of internal calculation, seemed to agree. "Very well, Subject Kale, your clearance has been upgraded. You now have full access to all archived and real-time data streams, including unfiltered crime statistics. Be warned, the truth can be unsettling." Kale spent days immersed in the hierarchy's vast data archives. What he uncovered was horrifying. The crime rates in the lower sectors were astronomically high, far worse than what was publicly reported. The data revealed systematic patterns of violence, exploitation, and despair. It also exposed the hierarchy's deliberate suppression of this information, painting a false picture of galactic harmony. The architects of chaos aren't just manipulating cults, Kale realized, sharing his findings with Shade. They're exploiting the hierarchy's own secrecy. They're using the suppressed suffering of the lower sectors as a breeding ground for their influence. Shade listened, his face grim. They thrive on despair, on disunity. Kale continued, the architects are creating what they call resonance points. Places where the psychic energy of suffering is so concentrated, it creates a direct link to their dimension. The dimensional shards are just tools to amplify these points. He pointed to a holographic map of the galaxy, highlighting several densely populated but impoverished planets. These are the next targets. And the hierarchy is blind to it, because they refuse to acknowledge the true extent of the suffering. Shade slammed his fist on the table. Then we make them see. We expose the truth. They began a new mission, a mission not just of combat but of exposure. Kale, using his enhanced connection, began to transmit raw, unfiltered crime data and evidence of the architect's growing influence directly to hierarchy officials, bypassing the usual filtration systems. He started with the most trusted, the ones who genuinely sought to maintain order. The reactions were varied. Some were outraged, feeling betrayed by their own system. Others were in denial, clinging to the illusion of order. But slowly, the truth began to spread. The hierarchy, for the first time, was forced to confront its own internal flaws. This caused a massive internal upheaval within the hierarchy. There were heated debates, accusations, and even small, contained insurrections from factions who felt their faith had been shaken. Xylos found himself at the center of this storm, mediating, providing data, and slowly pushing for transparency. Amidst this internal chaos, Xylon sent another cryptic message. The architects are pleased. Your truth, Kale, has created the perfect symphony of discord. They are preparing their final ascension. Kale felt a chill. His actions, meant to bring truth, had inadvertently accelerated the architect's plan. They thrived on discord, on the breakdown of established order. We need to accelerate our efforts, Kale told Shade, his voice urgent. They are using the hierarchy's own instability to their advantage. They will try to open a massive, permanent tier. He consulted the data, searching for the next, most crucial resonance point. He found it, a planet known as Etheria, a tranquil, almost utopian world, shielded from the galaxy's strife by a powerful, ancient energy barrier. It was the last place anyone would expect a major conflict. Why Etheria? Shade asked, looking at the peaceful planet on the holographic map. It's a world of peace. Precisely, Kale replied grimly. Its purity, its undisturbed energy, makes it the perfect target. If they corrupt Etheria, if they turn its peace into suffering, the energy released will be enough to create a permanent gateway for them. Their mission to Etheria was different. It wasn't about fighting criminals or corrupt cultists. It was about protecting innocence, preventing the corruption of a pure world. They arrived to find the ancient energy barrier around Etheria flickering, already weakened. The architect's subtle influence was at work, eroding the world's defenses. A small, insidious force of architects' agents, known as the Whispers of Discord, had infiltrated Etheria. They weren't soldiers. They were manipulators, whispering doubts, stirring up old grievances, turning neighbor against neighbor, slowly eroding the planet's peace from within. They're using psychological warfare, Kale realized, watching the peaceful Etherians turn on each other, their faces contorted in suspicion and anger. Shade roared in frustration. How do you fight whispers? You don't fight them with force, Kale said, closing his eyes, channeling his deepest connection to the ancient, balancing energy. You fight them with understanding. With compassion. He began to project waves of pure, calming energy, resonating with the ancient power of Etheria itself. He projected images of unity, of empathy, of forgiveness, reminding the Etherians of their true nature. The whispers of discord screamed as Kale's energy destabilized their influence, exposing their insidious manipulations. The Etherians, freed from the architect's influence, looked at each other with confusion, then with shame. The peace of their world, though briefly fractured, began to mend. The ancient energy barrier, now nourished by Kale's power, flared back to full strength, repelling any further attempts at infiltration. The architects of chaos, watching from beyond the void, unleashed a new wave of fury. Their psychic projections assaulted Kale, trying to overwhelm his mind with visions of universal chaos, of inevitable destruction. But Kale stood firm, anchored by his newfound clarity and the memories of his mother's words, the warmth of Shade's unspoken support. "You cannot break me." Kale projected, his voice resonating with cosmic power. "I am the balance, and I will not let you unravel this existence." He began to project not just to the architects, but to the entire galaxy. He used his unique connection to broadcast a message of truth, of the architect's true nature, of their flawed vision of order. He revealed the hierarchy's suppressed data, the suffering it had hidden, urging all to seek transparency, to build a better future, based on honesty and genuine connection. The galaxy erupted. The hierarchy's internal crisis deepened, but this time, it was a crisis of growth, a painful but necessary transformation. Planets long oppressed found their voice, demanding accountability. The old order began to crumble, making way for something new, something built on shared truth. Xylos, witnessing this galactic awakening, began to shift hierarchy resources, supporting transparency and open communication. Even Xylon, watching from his monitored location, seemed genuinely impressed, perhaps even a little unnerved by Kale's profound impact. "He truly is an anomaly," Xylon murmured to himself, a rare glint of respect in his eyes. The architects of chaos, their plans disrupted, their influence exposed, retreated, their ancient voices fading into frustrated silence. They had underestimated the power of human connection, the resilience of life, and the unexpected strength of a single individual who chose empathy over force. Kale and Shade returned, not to celebration, but to the quiet work of rebuilding. The galaxy was in turmoil, but it was a hopeful turmoil, a movement towards true change. Kale became a guiding light, traveling from system to system, healing the scars of the past, fostering dialogue, and helping disparate species find common ground. Shade, the silent protector, was always by his side. His magnum was holstered more often now, used only when absolutely necessary. His immortality, once a burden, was now a gift, allowing him to witness the profound transformation Kale was bringing about. Kale's path was no longer about fighting wars, but about preventing them. It was about building bridges, about understanding, about the power of truth and genuine connection. He was the catalyst for a new era, a beacon of hope in a galaxy rediscovering its own potential. His journey, intertwined with Shade's, was an unending saga of healing, unity, and the enduring spirit of life in the face of cosmic indifference. Kale and Shade returned, not to celebration, but to the quiet work of rebuilding. The galaxy was in turmoil, but it was a hopeful turmoil, a movement towards true change. Kale became a guiding light, traveling from system to system, healing the scars of the past, fostering dialogue, and helping disparate species find common ground. Shade, the silent protector, was always by his side. His magnum was holstered more often now, used only when absolutely necessary. His immortality, once a burden, was now a gift, allowing him to witness the profound transformation Kale was bringing about. Kale's path was no longer about fighting wars, but about preventing them. It was about building bridges, about understanding, about the power of truth and genuine connection. He was the catalyst for a new era, a beacon of hope in a galaxy rediscovering its own potential. His journey, intertwined with Shade's, was an unending saga of healing, unity, and the enduring spirit of life in the face of cosmic indifference. Despite the recent victories, a new shadow began to fall across the galaxy. Whispers of a powerful entity, a being of pure malevolence, started to spread among the star systems. This entity, known only as the Oblivion Weaver, was said to consume light, hope, and even existence itself, leaving behind only emptiness. It was attracted to areas of extreme cosmic unrest, the very places where Kale had been working to bring peace. "The Oblivion Weaver," Xylos reported, his voice tinged with unease. "Its presence has been detected near the Cinder Nebula, a region already volatile from ancient conflicts. The energy signature is unlike anything we've ever encountered." Kale felt a profound chill. This was different from the architects of chaos. The architects sought to impose order, the Oblivion Weaver sought only destruction. This entity was attracted to negative energy, to despair, thriving on it like a parasite. "We need to stop it," Kale said, his resolve hardening, "before it consumes entire star systems." Shade nodded, his hand resting on his magnum. "How do you fight something that eats light?" "You don't fight it with light, Shade," Kale replied, his eyes distant as he felt the cosmic vibrations. "You fight it with creation, with life itself." Their journey took them to the Cinder Nebula, a swirling expanse of cosmic dust and gas, perpetually lit by the remnants of long-dead stars. Here the energy of ancient battles still lingered, a perfect feeding ground for the Oblivion Weaver. The nebula itself seemed darker, as if its light was being drawn away. They found the Oblivion Weaver at the heart of the nebula. It was a terrifying sight, a swirling vortex of absolute darkness, with tendrils of shadow reaching out, extinguishing stars, consuming planets, leaving nothing but an empty void in its wake. It was not a creature, but a living void, an anti-existence. "It's a force of ultimate entropy," Kale realized, his voice strained. "It unbinds existence." The Oblivion Weaver turned its attention to them, and Kale felt a wave of crushing despair wash over him, a nihilistic apathy that threatened to extinguish his very will to live. Shade, too, felt the oppressive weight, his movements becoming sluggish. "It feeds on despair," Kale shouted, forcing himself to push through the overwhelming negativity. "Fight it, create, imagine life." He channeled his ancient power, but this time, it wasn't just about balance or healing. It was about creation, about affirmation of existence. He projected images of burgeoning life, of vibrant ecosystems, of new stars being born, of children laughing, of love, of hope. He poured all his life-affirming energy into the void. The Oblivion Weaver recoiled, its shadowy tendrils flickering, momentarily destabilized by the pure, unadulterated essence of life. It shrieked, a sound that was less a noise and more a vacuum of sound, a tearing of the fabric of reality. "It can't consume what is being constantly created," Kale realized. "It's like trying to drink from an endless river." Shade, reinvigorated by Kale's resolve, began to fire his magnum, not at the Oblivion Weaver itself, but at the remnants of dead stars and planets that the Weaver was trying to consume. He didn't aim to destroy, he aimed to interrupt its feeding. His blasts, imbued with Kale's life-affirming energy, caused sparks of new light to erupt from the dying celestial bodies, a chaotic but hopeful defiance of the void. The battle raged, a cosmic dance between creation and oblivion. Kale constantly projected life, filling the void with an endless stream of vibrant energy, while Shade strategically disrupted the Weaver's attempts to absorb more despair, forcing it to expend its energy on futile consumption. The Oblivion Weaver, unable to fully consume Kale's endless wellspring of creation, and constantly interrupted by Shade, began to weaken. Its tendrils of shadow became thinner, its vortex less intense. The surrounding Cinder Nebula, instead of being consumed, began to shimmer with new, vibrant colors, as Kale's energy permeated it. Finally, with a last desperate shriek that seemed to tear at the very fabric of space, the Oblivion Weaver collapsed in on itself, not exploding but imploding into a single infinitesimal point of pure absolute nothingness. It had been consumed by its own inability to consume everything. The Cinder Nebula, once a graveyard, now pulsed with life. New stars began to coalesce from the vibrant gas and dust, powered by the residual life energy Kale had poured into the region. Planets, once barren, began to show signs of nascent ecosystems. Xylos's voice, filled with awe, echoed through their comms. "Subject Kale, Shade, the Cinder Nebula is regenerating. New stellar nurseries are forming. Life is blossoming." The galaxy erupted in praise. Kale was no longer just a savior. He was a living god of creation, a testament to the ultimate power of life itself.